You know, I was just sitting here, just thinking about all the abuse we take as citizens from the government, businesses, political parties, and everyone who has the power and influence to somehow shove our lives in a direction that we don't want to go. And how we're supposed to have a system of laws protecting us. But as I spend each day pushing back against these forces that are controlling my life, I think about how they subtly use these laws to push us even further. It's like over time they created this other kind of layer of control that's actually a violation of our rights that we don't even think about. Then we wonder not only how it got this way, but how we let it go on as long as it has, sometimes with us becoming innocent bystanders with a legal responsibility attached. So let's begin with saying you witness an accident, or your boss at work does something wrong, or someone mentions your name in a lawsuit, or you vouch for an acquaintance that gets sued. All of a sudden, you're asked to appear before a court for a deposition, which means that an attorney has the right to ask you all kinds of questions about your personal and business life, no matter what you're being deposed for. And they can ask you any question they want, any question. Of course, you're allowed to have your own attorney present to protect your interests. But how many average Joes do you know has an attorney waiting around to appear with them at a deposition? So then they ask you under oath whether you knew your boss was having an affair with his secretary, or if you knew that the person who you gave a recommendation for his job had a criminal record, and did you inform his employer? Or have you ever taken home office supplies from work? Remember, if you lie under oath, then all of a sudden it's not only about other people, but then it becomes about you. And if you refuse to take a deposition, they can subpoena you to take one. Or you can hire an attorney to go to court asking why your testimony is so important. Or possibly be charged with contempt. All of a sudden, attorney's fees become an item in your budget that you weren't planning on. So how does this stuff happen without having someone go to court first to prove they need your deposition? You know, it's kind of the same thing when someone has a claim against you. And if there ever should be a national outcry about the treatment of average Joes, it should be over the collection of bills that seems to have circumvented all kinds of constitutional protections. Like if you go to an eye doctor who says your insurance covers eye exam and eye exams it's not covered, or a dentist that sends you a letter telling you that you still have credit left on your insurance coverage, and then after they extract a tooth tell you that you didn't have credit, and they sent out a letter to all their patients, and you should know better. Like checking your phone bill, remember that one? And of course, how many times are we told that insurance is supposed to cover everything but deductibles or co-pays, and then for whatever reason the insurance doesn't pay it all? Maybe because someone makes a mistake filing your claim. Or you buy a bunch of clothes at the Gap for your daughter, and then you get a discount. Remember how you get a discount for signing up for their store credit card? But you pay for it with a Visa card, and they end up charging your Visa card as well as putting the charge on the Gap card. And when you send them a copy of your Visa card charges, they chalk it up to two purchases for the exact same amount on the same day at the same time. Okay, so all these things happen to me, but they also happen to a lot of other folks I know. So then, if you disagree and refuse to pay, your account's sent to a collection agency that calls you every day until you pay, sometimes morning and night. Now at some point you begin to think that your only two choices are either to pay up or wake up to a phone call every day. That is, until they decide to file a lien against your property or a lawsuit against you that, if you hire an attorney, will probably cost more than the bill you owe. And then along the way, your creditors ruin, which makes it harder and more costly to get a loan or mortgage, no matter how hard you plead that you really didn't owe the money they say you do. Of course, it's extortion when you're wrongly forced to do something against your will. But trying to convince a court that such practice has been going on forever should be treated as a criminal offense. I mean, it's been going on forever. Besides, average Joes typically don't have the money or the time to fight for justice. It's unbelievable. And it's been going on forever with no one No one's saying they can't just start calling me because they say I owe a bill when I don't think I do. And how come they don't have to go to court to get permission to begin this harassment with the threatening phone calls? Who made them judge and jury and the sole deciders of our fate? But how do we average Joes ever change a system that has gotten so far out of control? Well, of course we already know that attorneys are the most powerful lobbyists in the states and Congress, and will never allow anyone to change a system that provides them a livelihood. And then there are more members of Congress and legislators who are lawyers than any other profession. And every collection agency and their state and national associations are represented by a team of lobbyists whose main job is to make sure there are no changes in laws affecting their industry. And how do they do that? Well, there's always dinners and golf and contributing money to campaigns and making sure an elected official's family doesn't have to worry about early morning harassment calls. It doesn't hurt if legislators, the leaders of the legislatures and Congress, who determine what bills get heard, get most of the donations, and maybe even have a family member with an industry-related job. But even with having these lobbyists catering to their every whim, while an average Joe can't even get a phone call returned, how can these elected officials provide a justifiable argument for being able to wake somebody up in the morning because a client of the collection agency says that someone owes a bill without having to prove it in court first? It turns out there is no legitimate argument. This is an industry which has been allowed to operate in such a manner by those we put in office without regard to the rights of citizens who have been declared guilty without the right to defend their innocence. That's just another reason we need to replace these people we elect with people who won't be afraid to change these unfair rules that have been imposed on us all these years. Stuff we don't even think about changing, since we don't know how it got there to begin with. You know, it's tough enough dealing with all this crap we have to plan on without having to worry about all this other uncontrollable, frustrating stuff that enters our lives because of corrupt business people trying to take money out of our pockets. Now, I went to court, and I won each case. But by representing myself, I spent so much time fighting insurance company attorneys, protecting their clients, and collection agencies, that I wasn't able to keep up with what was going on in our country, or whether somebody snuck a linebacker fee back on my phone bill. It'd be nice if these elected officials could put themselves in our shoes and at least represent the interests of those whose votes put them in office instead of lobbyists, big business, and the government. They need to understand that as public servants, they work for us, and the government just issues their check. And yet it seems everything revolves around government, and it's always been that way. Think about it. It's almost like government folks invented the calendar and the clock, not just telling us what to do, but when to do it. It's another one of those things in our life that's kind of strange when you think about how we got started following something, even though it might not be in our best interest. Like it's been forever that we've heard of what? Keep holy the Sabbath, right? Keeping holy the Sabbath. But when did the government stick its nose under the tent and get to keep holy the weekend and the evenings and every holiday possible? You know, the government can do a whole bunch of stuff on weekends and the evening and even holidays if it wanted to. Stuff that can make our life easier. I mean, imagine what it would be like if none of us worked on weekends. We couldn't function. So why don't they work on weekends? Who decided we didn't need goods and services from the government when other people are working? Think how much more production could occur in our country if we all had the flexibility of dealing with government when we want to, rather than just when they decide it's available. Stuff like having courts open on weekends. I don't think anyone would complain. That way the plaintiffs and defendants and a whole boatload of witnesses won't miss work, and jurors who work during the week could make a little extra cash. And I'd be willing to bet that it's the average Joes who miss the most work, since they usually don't have lawyers representing them in court. Who knows, maybe even doctors will follow suit so that their patients don't miss a half a day of work every time they get a cold. And what about other government services and appointments that that we have to miss work for. Like standing in line at the motor vehicle department when you could be working. You know, the most important thing in our country right now is not the convenience of government, but the workers who make money producing and buying stuff. I mean, we have all these rules to benefit a government that we're paying for that's in charge of every part of our lives. Oh, and remember when they said they were gonna close down government, shut down government because they couldn't agree on a budget bill? Remember that? Well, it was going to start on a Friday, and because of a holiday, they weren't coming back until Tuesday anyway. I got to thinking, okay, they closed government down. It gets closed down like that all the time. And somehow we survive. I mean, essential services that protect our citizens have to work all the time. Why not the rest of government? Like I always say, we need to figure this stuff out. Not because not knowing where we're going is the best way to get somewhere we've never been, but also because in many cases, we've been there so long we can't remember when, how, or why we got there.